Hi, I'm Hayley Victoria and welcome back to my crime and policing channel. Today we're going to look at some police history because, I love history, I love policing and, the law, that kind of stuff. I'm that fun gal. Anyway, I'm filming live from a secret room in my house with another secret room that's not so secret behind me. It's just full of spiders. I'm freaking myself out now. I keep getting asked some questions in my chats about certain figures in policing and in history and in policing history. And one of those figures is Sir Robert Peel. So I thought, oh my God, I've not spoken about Robert Peel properly yet. Why have I not done that? Because it's so important, because some of the things that Sir Robert Peel did are fundamental to British policing today. And if you've not heard of Sir Robert Peel and you are studying policing, I'd be very surprised. So yeah, here's hoping you're not studying under a rock. So Sir Robert Peel was born in 1788 and he died in 1850, so had a pretty good innings for those days. But it was 1829 where he did something majestical, which was he founded the Metropolitan Police Service down in London, kind of known as the father of policing. They always say that about themselves, don't they? Like, like Lombroso's like, yeah, I'm the father of criminology. It's like, who said that? Like, did you give yourself that name? I don't know. Maybe I'm going to be like the mother of, I don't know, ill-timed jokes on the internet and law. I don't know. I might give myself a title. Who knows? Anyway, yeah. So Robert Peel was like also one of the founders of the modern Conservative Party. I don't know which way you guys vote, who are watching, so don't judge me for talking about a Conservative. I'm not going to tell you how I vote because it doesn't really matter. But yeah, he was one of the founders of the modern Conservative Party. And he was Prime Minister twice. This is like a really high-flying politician guy. And like I said, in 1829, he became the founder of the Metropolitan Police Service in the UK. There was a massive concern from the public at the time that on account of his background, being a politician, and it was conservative as well, let's think of the working classes here, guys, that he wouldn't be policing properly and it'd just be a tool for the government to oppress society. So there's kind of a lot of concern from the public about this new police service. But what Robert Peel introduced were the Peelian Principles, and they still underpin a lot of policing today. The thing about British policing as well, is it's not saying that in 1829, magically, there were this policing body that we'd never ever had before. Because what we used to do is kind of like police themselves. So in the UK, we'd have like constables or watchmen, things like that, in our own parishes who would be in charge of maintaining law and order, but they weren't this body that you see today. That's evolved, and that came like as part of the Industrial Revolution. We got more growth and we needed more control and things. You wanted something that was like uniform across the areas, and that's where we came up with this. And after the 1829 birth of the Metropolitan Police, where they decided to enlist 1,000 constables, amazing, right? Then it spread across the UK, and then all the major cities had this same kind of model. And Leicester Police being founded, I think it was 1839. There you go. This is where it started. Anyway, let's talk about Robert Peel. So because he was aware that the public were like, we don't really want to be oppressed. We've spent all this time in history policing ourselves, and it's worked pretty well. So we don't need you to come wandering in your size 10s with your political stuff, telling us what to do. He had something to help, which were these Peelian Principles. So these Peelian Principles were all about the fact that we're policing by consent, and that still happens today. That's still the party line today, policing by consent. So the police constables that were employed were the people, and they were doing it for the people. It was all about that societal contract that we had together, and they were just there to help, maintain the peace and order. So there are 9 Peelian Principles, and that's one of them is still one of my favourites, and I still think it's relevant. But let's see what you think of the others as well. I'm going to read them straight from a document because obviously I want to get them right. I don't want to be sticking in all my Yorkshire words and confusing stuff if you're using this for your assignments and stuff. So, okay, number 1. To prevent crime and disorder as an alternative to their repression by military force and severity of legal punishment. So, these are what the Peelian Principles are. To prevent crime or disorder as an alternative to the repression by military force and severity of legal punishment. It's kind of like something that's not as severe. To recognise always that the power of the police to fulfil their functions and duties is dependent on public approval of their existence, actions and behaviour, and on their ability to secure and maintain public respect. How good is that, right? So they're there because we let them be there, because they're doing the job to keep us all safe. To recognise always that to secure and maintain the respect and approval of the public means also the securing of the willing cooperation of the public in the task of securing observance of laws. Yeah, that's saying there that to have this, keep this respect and approval of the public means that you've also got to get willing cooperation of people. We're not just enforcing stuff on people. Number 4, to recognise always that the extent to which the cooperation of the public can be secured diminishes proportionately the necessity of the use of physical force and compulsion for achieving police objectives. How good is that? So that's saying that people are cooperating, so you don't need to go in and batter them with something to get them to do what you want. They're cooperating, reasonable force. And this is way back in 1829, remember, so this is quite good. Well before the Pace Act. Number 5, to seek and preserve public favour, not by pandering to public opinion, but by constantly demonstrating absolutely impartial service to the law. That means you're not a bent copper. In complete independence of policy and without regard to the justice or injustice of the substance of individual laws, by ready offering of individual service and friendship to all members of the public without regard to their wealth or social standing. No class divide here, people. By ready exercise of courtesy and friendly good humour, and by ready offering of individual sacrifice in protecting and preserving life. So those things there, the preservation of life and protection of property are still the main things that underpin what the police do. To use physical force only when the exercise of persuasion, advice and warning, we still do that, sorry, I get excited by this, is found to be insufficient to obtain public cooperation to an extent necessary to secure observance of law or to restore order, and to use only the minimum degree of physical force which is necessary on any particular occasion for achieving a police objective. So you've got to do your your persuade, advise and warn before you start getting physical with people, and that is still effective today. You still have to do that today. You can't just wander in and bash somebody. You've got to speak to them first, try and get them to reason with you, then advise them that, I'm going to have to take action if you don't, then warn them, I'm warning you now. I've asked you 3 times to put that away, blah, blah, blah. You've got to do the persuade, advise and warn before you get physical. Okay. Number 7, to maintain at all times a relationship with the public that gives reality to the historic tradition that the police are the public and that the public are the police. The police being only members of the public who are paid to give full-time attention to duties which are incumbent on every citizen in the interests of community welfare and existence. Remember that under those uniforms, there is somebody in there who's just a regular part of the community. They'll be in Tesco when you are, they'll be in the pub when you are. Their kids are going to go to the same school as your kids. They're just another citizen, but their job is to look after everybody else. It doesn't mean they're not part of society anymore. They're not going to a secret world like My Secret Door. They are still the public. They're still you. Okay, number 8, to recognise always the need for strict adherence to police executive functions and to refrain from even seeming to usurp the powers of the judiciary of avenging individuals or the state, and of authoritatively judging guilt and punishing the guilty. What do you reckon that means then? So police aren't the ones who decide if you are innocent or guilty. The police officers who are dealing with a case and a crime are just there to gather the evidence and to make sure that everyone is safe when they're doing stuff like that. That kind of guilt and innocence gets decided afterwards by the courts and the criminal justice system after arrest and stuff. Unless you confess and stuff, then cool. Number 9, this is like one of my favourites. And I always say that, I don't, but anyway. To recognise always that the test of police efficiency is the absence of crime and disorder and not the visible evidence of police action in dealing with them. So that's kind of like maybe an unusual thing to say, because a lot of people are like, oh, I want to see more police on the streets, I want to see this and that. And I love seeing police, by the way, about on the streets, stuff that makes me feel safe, especially at night time. But number 9 they're saying to recognise always that the test of police efficiency is the absence of crime and disorder. It's not happening, not the visible evidence of police action dealing with them. So wouldn't it be nice to not have the crime happening in the first place than to see the police tackling the crime on your street? I just thought that was really nice. Anyway, so they're the Peelian Principles, which came into force with Sir Robert Peel in 1829, and they still underpin policing today. In fact, when I was teaching in operational police training, we still taught the Peelian Principles as part of the introductory session into our courses. I hope you found that interesting. If you've got any more questions about history and police, let me know and I'll be happy to answer them for you. And I'm also writing a book. How exciting is that? And that's all about history and policing, because that's kind of what I do. Thank you very much for watching. Stay safe, look after each other, and please don't commit any crimes.